On a chilly December morning in 2010, a black Cadillac Escalade sat parked in the driveway of a quiet suburban home in Longview, Texas. Inside the SUV was the body of a woman, dead, apparent suicide. Her name, Lori Erica Ruff. But what no one knew at that moment was that her death marked not the end, but the beginning of one of the most perplexing identity fraud mysteries in modern American history. It would take years, cutting-edge DNA technology, and an army of amateur genealogists to uncover who this woman truly was. Lori Erica Ruff seemed to most people like a fairly typical woman. She lived a relatively quiet life in Texas, had a daughter, and was married to a man named Blake Ruff, a member of a prominent local family. But Lori was far from ordinary. From the moment she entered Blake's life, she was shrouded in secrecy. She refused to talk about her childhood. She avoided questions about her family. She had no friends from her youth, no stories of growing up, not even a hometown she was willing to claim. Her behavior raised red flags, especially with Blake's parents. She was deeply private, sometimes to the point of paranoia. She insisted that her marriage be held without Blake's family present. She homeschooled her daughter and rarely allowed visitors. When the marriage began to falter, things grew worse. Lori became increasingly unstable, withdrawn, and anxious. Blake eventually moved out, and Lori's behavior spiraled. On Christmas Day, 2010, she took her own life outside her former in-laws' home. In her car, investigators found two things that would open Pandora's box: a rambling suicide note and a locked strongbox. When the strongbox was finally opened, family members and law enforcement expected to find mundane items: a will, maybe personal letters, or family photos. What they found instead set off alarm bells: a collection of documents suggesting multiple aliases, including one identity that definitely didn't belong to her. Among the papers was a birth certificate for a girl named Becky Sue Turner. Becky Sue Turner, however, had died in 1971 in a tragic house fire at just 2 years old. Lori had assumed the identity of a dead child. That fact alone transformed a tragic suicide into a case for federal investigators. The Social Security Administration, suspicious of fraud, began to look into Lori's life. But the more they dug, the less they found. Lori Erica Ruff, as she was known, appeared in public records only after 1988. That year, someone using Becky Sue Turner's identity applied for a Texas driver's license and a Social Security number. Soon after, she legally changed her name to Lori Erica Kennedy and began attending classes at the University of Texas at Arlington. She was well-spoken, bright, and determined to reinvent herself. And for a time, she succeeded. She created a life, a persona, and buried her past. But the question remained: who was she before 1988? Everything before that date was a black hole. There were no records, no fingerprints on file, no known relatives. Investigators ran her photo through databases, tried facial recognition, even checked old missing persons cases. Nothing. It was as though she had appeared out of thin air. Blake Ruff described his late wife as highly intelligent, but emotionally volatile. She had suffered from bouts of depression and anxiety and exhibited signs of paranoia. Her behavior during their marriage, her refusal to allow their child to be photographed, her insistence on homeschooling, her hostility toward inquiries about her background, all painted a picture of someone desperately trying to hide. The suicide note she left behind was no help either. It was disjointed, filled with rage toward Blake's family, and offered no clues about her real identity. But one thing was now certain: Lori Erica Ruff had lived a lie for over 2 decades, and no one had any idea why. As the case grew colder, investigators turned to a new frontier in forensics: genetic genealogy. By submitting samples of Lori's DNA to public databases like GED Match and Family Tree DNA, analysts began the painstaking process of tracing her biological family tree. It was a long shot, but by comparing her DNA to distant relatives and cross-referencing family trees, a group of volunteer genealogists, the same kinds of internet sleuths who would later help catch the Golden State Killer, made a breakthrough. In 2016, they found a match. Lori was actually born Kimberly Maria McLean in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in October 1968. Kimberly had been a bright but troubled teenager. Her mother later recounted that she was fiercely independent and frequently clashed with her family. At the age of 18, Kimberly left home and told her parents never to contact her again. They never did. What followed was a remarkable act of reinvention. Kimberly studied how to disappear. She located the birth certificate of Becky Sue Turner, a child who had died young in another state, and used it to build a new identity. In a pre-digital age before 9/11 tightened identity checks, it was surprisingly possible. With a dead child's name and forged documents, she applied for a new social security number. Then she shed her skin. She became Lori Erica Kennedy. She moved to Texas, enrolled in university, and began living a life no one could trace. For years, she functioned as a ghost in plain sight. She passed background checks, got married, and had a child, all while hiding the truth. But lies have weight, and over time that weight became unbearable. As her marriage unraveled, Lori's mental state deteriorated rapidly. She became paranoid that people were following her. She started acting irrationally, making bizarre accusations and isolating herself more and more. She refused therapy. Blake, now fearing for their child's safety, filed for divorce and won custody. Lori was devastated. She left behind notes and journal entries that hinted at inner torment, but gave no clear answers. Why had she run away? What was she hiding? The answers died with her, or so it seemed. Kimberly McLean's story, the woman the world knew as Lori Erica Ruff, remains one of the most striking examples of modern identity fraud. But it's more than just a puzzle solved. It's a tragic commentary on the human need to escape, to start over, to be someone new. What was she running from? Abuse? Shame? A crime? Or simply a life she couldn't bear to live? We may never know, but what we do know is this: she almost got away with it. For over 20 years, she lived undetected. Her deception was so complete that not even her husband knew the truth. In the end, it took science, curiosity, and the internet to bring the real Kimberly back into the light. Her story forces us to confront difficult questions. How well do we know the people in our lives? How easy is it really to vanish in a hyper-connected world? And what does it say about us, about our systems, that someone could reinvent themselves so thoroughly for so long? Maybe Lori, Kimberly, wanted more than just a new name. Maybe she wanted to disappear so badly that she was willing to erase her entire existence. And maybe, just maybe, there are others out there who've done the same. If this story intrigued you, let us know in the comments. What do you think drove Kimberly to such extremes? Would you ever want to start a new life from scratch? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Criminal Chessboard for more chilling mysteries, clever criminals, and real-life stories that prove truth really is stranger than fiction.